There is no higher honor in healthcare than being named the HBA Woman of the Year. Affectionately known as the WOTY, this distinction honors one senior woman whose accomplishments have resulted in significant contributions to the healthcare and life sciences industry. She sponsors and mentors healthcare businesswomen so they achieve their greatest impact and career success. Her leadership style, executive presence, and savvy make our WOTY an inspiration to all.
Please welcome Executive Director and CEO of AstraZeneca, Pascal Soriot.
Good afternoon. I'm really so excited to be here. What an amazing event. Let's give Laurie and her team another round of applause. It's a fantastic event. So, Joachim, I was listening to you and I was kind of thinking maybe we could run an accent competition. I know I can't beat Spanish accent in front of a room full of women, but I was actually listening to your story at school and I thought you were actually very, very lucky because when my son was a middle school and a high school student at Princeton Day School, he actually didn't even want me to come to the school. He didn't want his friends to know his father had an accent. So you're actually doing quite well. I'm very proud today to introduce the winner of this year's award, Bahija Jallal. Bahija's husband, Ron, and her two daughters, Leila and Sophia, they are here in the room today. And I know they are as proud as I am. And we all know, all of us in this room know that we cannot be successful without the support of our family. So please join me to give them a round of applause. It's quite amazing for me to be here today for a couple of reasons. Of course, Bahija, but also I worked with last year's winner when I was at Roche Genentech. Jennifer, good to see you, and congratulations again. It's almost a familiar reunion, really. America attracts the best and the brightest people in the world. They know that if they work hard, they can change the world. Everything is possible. They can change the world and they can make it a better place. Bahija is one of those people, one of those smart, hardworking people, a passionate scientist who actually came to this country to change medicine. She's a true citizen of the world. She was born and raised in Morocco. She studied and she worked in several countries, including France. She studied in Paris. I'm a country boy, so I don't know Paris very well. And I can tell you she knows Paris far better than I do. And a couple of years ago, we were together in Paris, and I was following her because I get lost in Paris. And at some point, I realized that she knows it so well. I started wondering, did she study here, or did she spend her time partying in this city? But she also worked in Germany, where she started her work in oncology and met Ron, her husband. And then she worked in the US for many years in California, and the last number of years in Gettysburg at MedImmune, of course. She's fluent in Arabic, in French, in German, and of course in English. It's quite impressive, isn't it? Really, really very impressive. She is a very inspiring leader with a remarkable passion for science, but also for people and diversity. Her passion for science is what drove her to leave her country of birth and explore the world. Her mother encouraged her to go to Paris. She saw her potential, she saw her passion, and she knew she would make a difference. Bahija, I know you know this, but you have a remarkable mother. It is very hard, as we all know, for a mother to send her daughter away from home, so far away from home. But she saw your determination. She saw your free spirit, and she knew you would do great things. What many of you don't know probably is that Bahija has Berber blood. The Berbers are a people who come from the Atlas Mountains, where the lion of the Atlas can be found. The Romans, the Arabs, the French tried to colonize them, but they're never really very successful. They are very proud fighters who manage to keep their culture and to keep their language. They actually do not call themselves Berbers, they call themselves Amazigh. Amazigh means the free people. And their spirit of freedom is in Bahija. She has their spirit of freedom. She's very courageous, she's very resilient. She fights for what she believes in. When AstraZeneca bought MedImmune many years ago, many people questioned the value of it. I was not at AZ at the time, but I know that Bahija had to very often justify the price AstraZeneca paid for MedImmune, and she had to put up with comments like, MedImmune is a money drain. She put her job on the line many times to defend her convictions, and she kept pushing, she kept going. And today, half of our company portfolio is made of biologics, and our company would not be what it is without MedImmune. And I can tell you, I know her dream is to hear investors one day tell us that AstraZeneca underpaid for the acquisition of MedImmune. She is an entrepreneur, and she sees the opportunity when many other people actually see the downside and see the risks. Drug development, as we know, is never easy, and it's full of ups and downs, and we all know that you cannot always succeed. One of our new biologics, benralizumab for asthma, is one of those products that was almost discontinued many years ago. But Bahija kept pushing, and to get to the bottom of the problems, when in fact many people wanted to give up. Eventually those problems were resolved, and benralizumab is now awaiting approval at the FDA. Really a fantastic success story for Bahija. So her passion for science and making new medicines that help patients is one reason why I actually think she deserves very much this award. But the second reason is that she deserves this award is her dedication to people and diversity. She has some of the most talented scientists on her team. And I can tell you she creates an environment around her that actually make people make the impossible possible. She champions diversity, both gender and ethnic diversity. And a great illustration of this is her commitment to the Women's Forum that she created in Gaithersburg many years ago, and what was subsequently rolled out in Sweden, in the UK, and in many countries around the world at AstraZeneca. And she's very often invited to those forums because everybody in our company knows how strong a leader and how strong an advocate she is for women in leadership, but also diversity on a broader basis. And it is quite remarkable that in our company, 49% of our employees at MedImmune are non-white Caucasians, and 51% are women. And it is also reflected in our senior leadership ranks. So Bahija, thank you so much for all you do for patients, for the people around you, and for our company.
Thank you. This is going to be really hard, so I'm going to try. And if I have to stop and drink water, you know why. So, thank you, Pascal, and thank you, Jennifer, for your kind words. Thank you, HBA. I am so grateful to all of you to be recognized here by my peers, by my colleagues, and by my family, and by others who touched my life. It is truly an honor. It's incredible to see a room full of women leaders in healthcare, many bright inspiring rising stars, and many industry veterans. As you heard, we all share the same goal. It's to improve the life and health of patients. For me, this is a noble profession. There is an old Moroccan proverb that says, "The arrogant man has no friends." So I come from a culture where modesty and humility are paramount. So in Morocco, it is really a faux pas to talk about yourself. And so here I am today breaking that rule. So my goal today is really to honor science. Science has been the passion of my life, and I would like to share with you some lessons I've learned during my career, a career that has been anything but a straight line. In my heart of hearts, I am a scientist, and early in my life, when I thought about what it means to pursue a career in research, and I believe that still today, I viewed science as an incredible journey of curiosity and creativity that, when coupled with perseverance and resilience, gets to the discovery where every answer leads to new question. So it is constant learning that attracted me to this field. So working in science has never been a job for me. Actually, and in fact, I've never felt like I worked a single day in my life. So it's truly a privilege. And the science, and you have to agree with me, has never been better. We are really in unprecedented times. There's so many innovations, breakthroughs in healthcare that are benefiting patients today. There are some new medicines, new devices, new technologies are changing the way we think about healthcare. That's why we do what we do. That's why we wake up every day to come to work. And while there have been many, many amazing advances, we have so much more to do. There are still too many patients affected by cancer, diabetes, asthma, and other unmet medical needs. So my passion, you see how passionate I am. So my passion for science began very early. As a child growing up in Morocco, I was always curious. I'm sure, like some of your kids, I tormented my parents by constantly asking why. I have one of those, so there is karma. Yes, Leila. But when I was 9 years old, the question of why took on a new significance. That was the year that my father went to the hospital with a kidney stone, but never made it back home. So he died because of a medical error. When I look back, I realize that that experience and what happened afterwards prepared me for the field I'm in today. A field that requires we learn from mistakes, that demands tenacity and determination, that remind us that from adversity, good can follow if we make that choice. So after my father's passing, I saw my mother raise 5 daughters and 2 sons on her own in what was at the time a patriarchal society. So the odds for me as a young Moroccan to get a university-level education were not very high. I also come from a culture that believes it takes a village to raise a child. And don't get me wrong, this is really something I cherish in that culture. However, if you are an orphan, if you lose your father, everyone, but I mean everyone, relatives and neighbors alike, take it on themselves to try to raise you. So their expectation of me was that like most young Moroccan women of the time, I would maybe marry, maybe have kids, and so on. So I did not really need an advanced education. But my mother was determined that all her children would accomplish their dreams. It sounds like both Joaquin and I have very passionate mothers, and we love them for that. My mother told us every day that we could be whatever we want to be, that we would have the opportunity to get an education and to go to college and to go as far as we so desire. All this from a woman who didn't go to school herself. My dream was to study science and to figure out the answers to all my whys. And that dream would require me to leave Morocco to pursue my education. And my mother's wisdom, her guidance to follow my heart, echoed and still echoes today in my head and guides me every step of the way. And by taking that advice, by always following my heart, my career journey had taken turns that I would never had anticipated. So despite the conventional wisdom, I have never done a development plan, right, Pascal? And I've never chased titles. I think if I had planned every step of my career, it would have looked completely different, and I would have missed many, many happy turns. And this winding path has given me many lessons, and I would like to share 4 of them with you today. So the first lesson is, don't be afraid to fail. My career started with a resounding failure. So I had joined a small startup company in the Bay Area. At the time we were, in really the biggest height of oncology, the sequencing of the human genome, protein engineering were completely opening doors to targeted therapy. So with this personalized approach, that had the potential to replace radiotherapy and in some cases even chemotherapy, we embarked on looking at the first compound. So for the scientists out there, it was looking at making inhibitors for protein kinases that were overexpressed in cancer. So our first compound looked promising. We went to the clinic, and it completely failed. So undeterred, we made some changes. The second compound, we went into the clinic, and it failed again. I was really at the start of my career. So obviously, adversity was testing us. But true to form, and being at Susan at that time, good was about to happen. So the whole company actually stopped for over 2 weeks. And all we did is the lessons learned. What could we have done better? What could we learn from these mistakes that if we start over again, we don't repeat the same mistakes? And with these learnings, then we went into the clinic with the third compound, and at that time then, we were successful, and today it's helping patients. So looking back, I'm really happy, and I say it all the time, that I didn't start my career with the success. I don't think I would have learned the tremendous amount of information and the tremendous amount of lessons in drug development that if I had started with the success. So don't be afraid to fail. And when you do, be resilient, stand up, dust off, figure out what went wrong, and start again. If we never fail, especially in this industry, it means we're not innovating enough or pushing the boundaries of science far enough. So the second thing science has taught me is also to dream big. We have it in our hands to turn science fiction into science facts. I really believe it. So you heard from Pascal. He heard that story several times. When AstraZeneca acquired MedImmune in 2007, it was a challenging time. So it seemed like we were constantly fighting for the survival of the company. or the unit, and our pipeline really did not have much to offer to our new parent company. And employer morale was not at the very highest. So when I think of this time, I recall the words of the French poet Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, who said, "If you want to build a ship, don't drum up people to collect wood, and don't assign them tasks and work. Teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea." So for me, what would the scientists long for that would keep them motivated and engaged during these trying times? I know, and we all know, as scientists, we love challenges. So we set a bold ambition and a bold vision for MedImmune. Remember, that was in 2007, and we said by 2016, we will have one new biologics license application to the FDA every year. And with very few projects in the MedImmune pipeline, the vision definitely seemed impossible. So true to form, to the scientists in Medi rose to the challenge. In that short period of time in drug development, you know this is a short time, we tripled the size of the pipeline in just a few years. We also achieved that nearly impossible vision 1 year earlier, in 2015. That's really what I love about MedImmune. Where are you? Our scientists. They truly inspire me every day. No challenge is too big for them. They work with such a purpose and such a sense of urgency, and I learn from them every single day. So those days also taught me a lot about leaders. It was at a critical time for MedImmune that Pascal came to AstraZeneca. It would have been so easy for him to cut the R&D budget, to fully integrate MedImmune and focus entirely. I'm pretty sure some analysts and some investors would have been happy. But Pascal knew that the road to success lay not in a reduction of budgets and reorganizing, but in focusing on the patient and on the science. So he is, and he inspires me. He's an eternal optimist. Pascal has been a strong, supportive, he has been really a strong and supportive voice in this daunting business of drug discovery and development. So many times I had to call him and say, I am down, this is not working, and he will always find something positive. So he allowed me also to stay true to my ideals and to dream big. And I really thank you for that, Pascal. So what is your dream? Are you dreaming big enough? Never forget that it is in your power to make the impossible possible. The third lesson is to remember, amidst all the ups and downs and the highs and lows, and we know we have several of them in this industry, why we come to work every day. And when you forget, just come back to some of the stories. I'm pretty sure I'm going to share some with you that you've had. There were several pivotal moments in my journey that forged really my commitment to helping patients. This is why we come to work every day. So early in my career, I attended a meeting where a patient came, had colon cancer, spoke how one of our medicine had successfully treated her cancer and how grateful she was. I will never forget that moment. It's still vivid in my mind. This is the time where I realized exactly that day that I will give my all to drug development. And just recently, we brought another patient, and this time she was a lupus patient. She was 23 years old. Lupus is a very devastating disease. She already had 2 hip replacements, and she was about to have a shoulder replacement. I don't know about you, but I didn't know that you could replace a shoulder. And that's all not from her disease, but actually from the steroid that she requires to keep her lupus in check. She just doesn't have many options today. So after hearing her story, it reminded us why we come to work every day and our obligation to work with the sense of urgency, because every minute counts for the patients. That's what drives us, that's what drives the science, and that's what drives the efforts for all of us sitting in this room. So at each leg of my winding journey from Morocco to MedImmune, I followed the science and I followed my heart. And this exact thing has formed the core of my leadership philosophy, and is the advice I give anyone, woman or man, when they come to crossroads in their lives. It's something that I taught my daughters as they were growing up. I always told them not to apologize for being smart or for following their passion. I told them to always be true to themselves and to follow their heart. But for women, this can be difficult. So my fourth lesson is directed at the women in the room. So all too often, we get stopped in our tracks by our pursuit of perfection and our constant need for approval or fear of perception. So let's face it, and you will agree with me, ladies, sometimes we want to be perfect, the perfect mother, perfect partner, perfect business colleague. But by striving for that, we hold ourselves back. We convince ourselves that we should not pursue a new opportunity because we don't know everything that will be needed in that new role. Yes, Leila? That others know more than we do, and that others have it all figured out. So my friends, I'll let you in on a little secret. We don't have to be perfect. No one is perfect. And actually, the world would be really boring if everybody would be perfect. So now about the perception, or what I call, what will people think of me syndrome. So to address this plight of perception, I turn to one role model of mine, Eleanor Roosevelt, who said, "You would not worry so much about what others think of you if you realized how seldom they do." So ask yourself, are any of us so important that the world will stop just to think about what we are doing? So let's rid ourselves of this perfection and perception problem and empower ourselves to be imperfect and to care less about what other people think of us. Always stay true to yourself, live your passion, love what you do, and along the way, don't be afraid to fail. Dream big and remind yourself that good comes from adversity. And don't worry if the road takes you on surprising detours. Just listen to what your heart tells you. Use that as the foundation for becoming the scientist, the leader, and the woman you want to be. Thank you.